Did you know that in 2020, thousands of students almost had their careers destroyed because a machine learning program misbehaved? Keep watching to find out what happened. 2020 was a bad year as COVID hit us globally. A lot of countries went through phases of lockdowns and it deeply impacted the economy and morale in general. In the United Kingdom during the lockdown, Ofqual, the academic body which hosts the A level exams, was faced with a difficult problem. Since there were no tests being conducted, how were they to grade the students which were passing out this year? Similar problems were being faced by academic bodies around the globe, but Ofqual decided to do something that nobody else did. Ofqual announced that they'll be gathering information about the students from the schools that they were studying in and from the teachers who were teaching the students. And based on this information, they'll try to predict what grade the student might have gotten had they taken the test. And the only way to do this prediction was machine learning. Experts throughout the machine learning community expressed their concerns about using machine learning for something like this. But Ofqual decided to go ahead with it anyway. On 14th August 2020, they announced the results of the A-level exams and chaos ensued. The problem was that around 40% of the students got one grade lower than what their teachers had recommended be given to them. This could severely impact their future prospects and career options. The students who could have gotten into really prestigious universities now couldn't because their grades were not that good. And the students which had they taken the test would have barely passed had now failed. This was obviously viewed as unfair, and there was a lot of pushback from the students as well as the wider community, and protests broke out. But baffled by this, a lot of people were left asking what went wrong. To understand why this could have happened, we first need to understand what machine learning is in the first place. Machine learning is a method of programming where instead of telling the computer exactly what to do, you equip it with a learning framework so that it can look at vast amounts of data and try to figure out what needs to be done and when it needs to be done. Now you might wonder how a computer can suddenly know what is to be learned and how can it have the ability to learn things. Artificial intelligence or machine learning sounds like something that we see in the movies where an all-aware AI is sort of heading over to take over the world. But reality looks a bit different. The real way that machines learn is this. Imagine you had a graph where we will plot the prices of some houses. On the y-axis you have the price and on the x-axis you have the square footage of the house. Now on seeing this, you may be able to observe that as the square footage of the house sort of increases, the price linearly increases with it. You can also gain a rough understanding of how much the price increases every 100 square feet. So basically you might say that if we can pass a line through the middle of this data, it would probably give you a good estimate of the relationship between the square footage of a house and its price. It represents the average case, and next time I want to estimate the price of a house based on its square footage, I can simply look at this line and I'll have a rough estimate. In the machine learning community, we have certain names for the things that were shown here. The dots on the background that you see, that is your dataset. It is the data that your model is being given to learn from. The choice whether it will be a straight line or a curved line or an arbitrarily shaped line is the choice of the learning framework. It's called a model. This choice is what a machine learning engineer is an expert at making, and this is basically what they do at their jobs. And let's say once the engineer has decided on a model of choice, in this case a straight line, we still need to figure out which straight line will pass through our dataset. Since there are infinite numbers of lines that can pass through our dataset here, we need to figure out which one it is that will best fit our case. Once we have fit the line as best as we can, we say that our model is trained. So what the movies have shown as this dangerous AI is actually this line. Yes, this line can be a little more curvy or a little more complicated looking than just a straight line, but it's basically what it is. It's just a line. Now, based on the definition of machine learning that I gave you, if you think about it for a while, this has some profound implications. Since we never explicitly gave any rules to our machine learning model, every rule that it figures out by itself, every logical observation that it makes, is actually just something that it figured out based on the data that it was given. If our dataset only had data from the most luxurious houses in the world, our model would believe that houses are really expensive in general. And if it only had information about one-bedroom houses, Our model would believe that it's only possible for houses to have one bedroom. If your dataset does not represent reality, neither would your model. Of course, there are some oversimplifications here because this video is not aimed exclusively at machine learning veterans, but rather at a general audience. But what I've told you kind of gives you a rough idea of what happens behind the scenes in the machine learning world. Now, you might have noticed me say the phrase best fit model. That phrase itself pardons the model from being 100% accurate. We want it to fit as well as it can. We want it to be as accurate as it can. But we do not expect it to be 100% accurate. And this small phenomena makes machine learning a very poor choice when it comes to estimating the grades of students. Because see, for businesses like YouTube or Netflix, where you're trying to predict which video the user will want to watch next, being able to get that right 99% of the time is a pretty sweet deal. But when you're an academic body, which is trying to decide the results of students, and those results can have life-altering impacts on the students, 99% is not good enough. Even a 1% mistake is not good enough. Because even if there exists one student who did not get the grade that they deserved, it's unethical, it's wrong. But had this been limited to just one student, things might have looked far better. But the truth is that around 40% of the students got one grade lesser than what their teachers had recommended. Luckily, the British authorities were quick to address the issue and they withdrew the results within 3 days. They decided to instead grade the students simply based on what the teachers had recommended they be given. Machine learning is a very powerful tool. In fact, it will probably revolutionize the world as we see it. It is everywhere these days. From having tailor-made search results to beautifying your selfie, it is hard not to come around machine learning on a day-to-day basis. But as we step into a world where AI is more and more abundantly present, we need to understand that artificial intelligence or machine learning is basically just a mathematical function that is trying to best understand the behavior of a dataset. It is simply maths and lines and some more complicated versions of those. But that's all there is. It's not an evil artificial intelligence like we see in the movies. At least not right now. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.